Senator Bernie Sanders is here as well to react to, among other things, the news that's breaking now, a judicial smackdown to the Trump administration efforts to get a question about citizenship into the 2020 census. On Sunday, the Justice Department, for reasons that are still not fully clear, said it was replacing the entire legal team that argued the case. Well, today, a federal judge in New York said no, they can't just do that. And that almost never happens. A change of counsel requests are almost always granted, but this is not a normal case. CNN's Jessica Schneider joins us now to explain the latest twist in it. So the judge didn't hold back in his order against the Justice Department's requests. He didn't say categorically it couldn't happen. What he basically said, the explanation doesn't make any sense.
That's exactly right, Anderson. This federal judge out of New York, Jesse Furman, he's blasting the Department of Justice and its tactics, telling the DOJ it can't just simply switch out its team of lawyers without adequate explanation. And that's why he's denying the DOJ's request to change up its lawyers, at least until they can provide some reasoning for doing so. And remarkably here, Anderson, the judge is really putting the onus on these individual lawyers at DOJ, saying that he wants sworn and signed affidavits from each of them explaining why they're withdrawing. And he also wants assurances that these lawyers will essentially be available as witnesses in any future proceedings dealing with sanctions, because this New York judge will also be reviewing any request to issue sanctions in this case if it's determined that administration officials weren't truthful when they gave their reasoning for wanting this citizenship question on the census. So, Anderson, this order from the judge really opens up a can of worms for the DOJ, which still hasn't publicly explained why it wants this change of lawyers. And all the thoughts are that you can't really have the same team of lawyers who said the census needed to start printing on July 1st now saying, well, there's plenty of time to add this question. So it's a big problem for the DOJ.
Right, because the Supreme Court, when they ruled, they didn't say, no, you absolutely cannot have this question on the census. They said, we don't buy the administration's argument about why they want to have it on. It doesn't make sense, their argument. It's just not truthful, essentially, though they didn't use the word truthful. And now the lawyers who argued that it was really, there was a huge time crunch on this, that it had to be ruled by a certain point, the fact that now they will have to argue something else that might contradict their whole time argument, it just puts them in a weird spot. And they've also been working on it for so long. To just bring in new lawyers, how would that even work?
Well, that's exactly what the judge is raising question with here. The judge is saying, how can you bring in this new team of lawyers and still stick to this timeline? Because motions are due in just a matter of days. So the judge is not only concerned that the DOJ hasn't given adequate reasoning for changing up their team of lawyers, but also how will this really mess up the timeline here? Because after all, the DOJ lawyers have consistently said time is of the essence here, and now all of a sudden they want to change up their entire team. So this is really the Department of Justice has to kind of work its way out of a real mess here, Anderson.
Yeah. Jessica Schneider, thanks very much. Joining us now to talk about this, campaign fundraising, his opponents, and the latest moves he's making to combat climate change. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, joins me now. Senator Sanders, I want to talk about climate change in just a moment and the latest thing that you are doing, essentially calling for a national emergency. But first of all, what is your reaction to this setback for the Justice Department and the administration in the census case? And why do you think they really want this question on the census about citizenship?
Well, Anderson, I don't think there's anybody who has any doubts as to why they want that question. It's to undercount Latinos so that they can create congressional districts which will not be Democratic, and also make sure that federal funding does not go to those underserved and often minority communities. I think everybody understands that is their rationale, and it's based on a very bigoted sense of what has to be done in this country.
Today, the president said that he feels very badly for the Labor Secretary Acosta, that he's worked hard, he's done a good job. Acosta is obviously now under fire for the plea agreement that he made with Jeffrey Epstein years ago in a case in Florida. Epstein was charged yesterday with having allegedly operated a sex trafficking ring involving dozens of underage girls. Should Acosta resign?
Yeah, he should. He should resign because he was part of a process which really exposes the two-tier criminal justice system in America. And it's not just Epstein. It is the crooks on Wall Street who destroyed our economy, who paid billions of dollars in fines to the federal government, but not one of these people ended up in jail. Look, the reality of American criminal justice is if you're poor, if you are a person of color, you get treated in one way. If you are rich and if you can hire all kinds of lawyers and you have friends in high places, you get treated in another way. And our job is, in fact, to create a criminal justice system, which theoretically the founders of this country wanted. And that is equal justice for all, rich or poor, black or white.
I was reading your tweets, and you're calling for a national mobilization akin to what the U.S. did after Pearl Harbor, only this time the national emergency you're citing is climate change. What does a national mobilization on climate change look like in your hopes?
Look, what it looks like is that if we are going to save this planet, and if we're going to respond to what the scientists are telling us, and that is that we have less than 12 years before there will be irreparable damage done to this country. And that means more drought, more floods, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more mass migrations of people, that unless we stand up by the millions to the greed of the fossil fuel industry, who are making billions of dollars every single year as they destroy this planet, what we have got to do is mobilize millions of people who say, you know what? Your short-term profits are not more important than the long-term health of this planet. We have got to create and leave our kids and our grandchildren a planet that is healthy and habitable. But by the way, Anderson, you know, it's not just the fossil fuel industry. What we see all across the economy, whether it is Wall Street, whether it's the insurance companies, the drug companies who are charging us by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, the insurance companies who will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to prevent us moving to a Medicare for all system. What you're seeing is a corporate elite whose greed is really destroying the middle class and working class of this country. And that is what we have got to stand up. Climate change is an integral part of that struggle, but it's not just climate change.
You introduced a resolution on this with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It is not likely to get passed in the Republican-controlled Senate. Is that just, I mean, really a symbolic effort at this point?
No, it's not and Representative Blumenauer of Oregon was involved in it as well. It will, I hope, pass the House, and I think we've got to put pressure on the Senate. Look, this is what the issue is. Is the future of this planet more important than the short-term profits of the fossil fuel industry? Do we tolerate a situation where we have a president who is ignoring science, who thinks that climate change is a hoax? We are fighting for future generations to live in a healthy and habitable planet. And the only way I know that real change ever takes place, whether it's economically, whether it is racially, whether it is environmentally, is when millions of people are prepared to stand up and fight back, and in this case, take on the greed and the lies of the fossil fuel industry. Anderson, you know, what I am reminded of when I talk about the fossil fuel industry is exactly what went on 40 years ago or so with the tobacco industry. You recall they lied and they lied. Smoking cigarettes is not a health problem. It's fine. Doctors on TV ads, smoking is fine. They lied. And millions of people died, including my father, as a matter of fact, who smoked 2 packs a day, died as a result of their lies. And the fossil fuel industry is lying right now. The debate is over. Climate change is man-made. It is causing devastating problems. We have got to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy.
As you know, Eric Swalwell has dropped out of the race. Tom Steyer declared his candidacy for president today. Is he the future of the Democratic Party?
Well, I surely hope not. I know Tom, and Tom is a decent guy who has done a lot of good things. He's been concerned about the environment. He's put money into voter registration, all of which I think are positive things. But I think, Anderson, that the American people are sick and tired of seeing the political power of billionaires, whether they are Democrats or whether they are Republicans. I am very proud that in our campaign, we have up to this point received some 2 million individual contributions, which I think is some kind of world's record. I may be wrong on that. I don't think anyone has ever done that at this stage in a campaign, averaging $19 apiece. The American people are tired of billionaires making huge campaign contributions
Yeah.
And, that's my sense of Tom.
Just finally, Senator, talking about campaign contributions, Senator Elizabeth Warren's second quarter fundraising numbers, I think, eclipse yours. She raised $19 million. You raised $18 million. You're now neck and neck in the CNN Post debate poll. She's improved her polling compared to the same poll a month earlier. What do her gains tell you, and where do you see this race right now? How do you feel about it?
Well, we have received, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure I'm not, we have received more individual contributions than Senator Warren. They are a smaller amount. I think she was $26. I believe we were $18 or $19. I'm feeling very good. Look, this is a very different situation, political situation, than last time around where there were two major candidates. This time there are 23 candidates. My guess is that at the end of the day, the candidate who gets 25, 30% will actually win state by state. We have very strong grassroots organization. We have over 1 million volunteers and strong organizations in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, in Nevada, California. So we're feeling pretty good about where we are right now. We think we stand an excellent chance not only to win the Democratic nomination, but to defeat the most dangerous president in modern American history.
Just one final thing. I'm about to interview Megan Rapinoe from the U.S. women's soccer team, just won the World Cup. Do you think they should get equal pay?
First of all, my congratulations to them for their just beautiful effort. And of course, they should get equal pay.
Senator Bernie Sanders, appreciate your time. Thank you.